You think you're seeking love, but you're running from the most terrifying encounter of your life, the encounter with yourself. Every desperate swipe through faces on a screen, every late-night text sent with trembling fingers, every relationship you chase like a drowning person grasps at driftwood. It's not love you're after, it's escape. Escape from the silence that reveals who you really are when no one is watching, when no one is validating your existence, when you're left alone with the raw truth of your being. You've been sold the greatest lie of your generation, that love is something you find outside yourself, that another person can complete you, that romance is the answer to the howling emptiness inside your chest that keeps you awake at 3 a.m., scrolling through social media, looking for something, anything, to fill the void. But what if I told you that emptiness isn't a problem to be solved? What if it's the very space where love is born? What if you've been searching for water while standing in the middle of an ocean, dying of thirst because you refuse to drink what surrounds you? You call it loneliness, but it's actually spaciousness. You call it emptiness, but it's actually potential. You call it lack, but it's actually the source from which all love flows. You've been searching for love in all the wrong places because you've been told that the right place, yourself, is the one place you should never look. From the moment you could understand words, they taught you that you were incomplete, that you needed someone to make you whole. Your parents modeled it, two halves desperately clinging to each other, calling their mutual dependency love, showing you that adults too believed they were broken without another person to fix them. The fairy tales whispered it into your young mind. You're nothing without your other half. Cinderella needed her prince. Sleeping Beauty needed her kiss. Even the bravest heroes were incomplete until they found their one true love. The movie screamed it louder. Find your soulmate or die alone, miserable, unfulfilled. Religion blessed it with sacred language. Two shall become one flesh, as if your individual existence was somehow sinful, somehow insufficient in the eyes of the divine. So you learned to fear your solitude like death itself. You learned that being alone meant being unloved, unwanted, somehow defective. You learned that your own company was insufficient, that the sound of your own thoughts was something to be drowned out with music, with noise, with the constant chatter of others. And now you live in terror of silence, of stillness, of the moments when there's no one to text, no notification to check, no external validation to receive. You've become addicted to the drug of connection, but it's not real connection. It's the simulation of connection, the promise that somewhere out there is someone who will finally make you feel complete. You've been conditioned to believe that needing someone desperately is romantic, that jealousy is passion, that losing yourself completely in another person is the highest form of love. They told you that crazy love was real love, that if you weren't willing to die for someone, you weren't truly in love. But what you call love is often just two people using each other to avoid the confrontation with their own souls. Two people drowning together and calling it swimming. Two people running from themselves and calling it running toward each other. You're not seeking love. You're seeking anesthesia from the pain of existing as yourself. The dating apps promise you connection, but deliver only the endless possibility of connection, which keeps you forever seeking, forever swiping, forever believing that the next face will be the one that saves you from yourself. The romantic comedies promise you completion, but what they deliver is the fantasy that someone else can do the work of loving yourself that only you can do. You've been taught that self-love is selfish, that focusing on yourself is narcissistic, that the highest virtue is self-sacrifice. But they never told you that you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot love another truly if you have not first encountered the love that you are. Alan Watts understood something that most of us spend our entire lives avoiding. You are already whole, not theoretically, not potentially. Actually, right now, the very fact that you exist, that consciousness is looking through your eyes at this moment, is evidence of your absolute completeness. But this wholeness isn't the static perfection they promised you in the fairy tales. It's not the kind of completion that needs nothing and changes nothing. It's dynamic, flowing, ever-changing. like a river that is always itself precisely because it's always moving, always becoming, always flowing toward the sea. You are not a broken thing waiting to be fixed by love. You are not a half waiting for another half to make you whole. You are a complete universe, spinning in space, generating your own light, containing within yourself all the love you could ever need or want. The ancient philosophers knew this. They spoke of love not as need, but as overflow, not as grasping, but as giving, not as completion, but as expansion. Aristotle called it agape, love that loves for the sake of loving, not because it needs something in return. The Sufis called it ishq, love that burns away everything that is not love until only love remains. When you seek love from a place of emptiness, you create relationships based on transaction. I'll give you what you need if you fill my void. I'll be what you want me to be if you make me feel worthy. I'll love you if you love me back, but this isn't love, it's emotional commerce. It's the marketplace of the heart, where everything has a price and nothing is given freely. True love, Watts would say, is what happens when you're so full of yourself, not in the narcissistic sense, but in the sense of being completely present to your own existence, that you naturally overflow into the world, like a spring that gives water not because it needs to, but because that's simply its nature, like the sun that shines not because it's trying to be helpful, but because shining is what suns do. This is the love that mystics throughout history have pointed toward. It's not the desperate grasping of the ego, but the natural expression of a being who has finally come home to themselves. It's not the love that asks, "What can I get?" but the love that asks, "What can I give?" Not because it should, but because it cannot help but give. Imagine a love that doesn't grasp, a love that doesn't need, a love that doesn't cling or possess or demand. Imagine a love that gives because it cannot help but give, like the sun cannot help but shine, like a flower cannot help but bloom. This is the love that emerges when you finally stop running from yourself. When you sit in the silence that terrifies you and discover that you are not empty, you are space itself. Infinite space in which all experience arises and passes away. You are not the content of consciousness. You are consciousness itself, aware and awake and utterly complete. You become like a mountain, complete in yourself, unmoved by the weather that passes over you, offering shelter not because you need to be needed, but because that's simply your nature. The storms come and go, the seasons change, but the mountain remains solid and present and utterly itself. This love doesn't ask, "What can you give me?" It asks, "How can I overflow into you?" It doesn't cling to outcomes because it knows that love, like water, flows freely or not at all. You cannot force a river to flow uphill. You cannot make someone love you. You cannot control the movement of love any more than you can control the movement of the wind. But you can become like the wind itself, free, flowing, touching everything without grasping anything. When you love from fullness instead of emptiness, everything changes. You stop trying to possess people. You stop making them responsible for your happiness. You stop seeing them as solutions to your problems or answers to your questions. You stop needing them to be anything other than what they are. Instead, you see them as they truly are. Complete universes in their own right, worthy of love not because of what they can give you, but because existence itself is lovable, because consciousness recognizing itself in another form is the most natural thing in the world. This is the love that Watts pointed toward, not the desperate grasping of the ego, but the natural overflow of a being who has finally come home to themselves. It's the love that Buddha spoke of when he said, "Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared." It's the love that Jesus demonstrated when he said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Not because you should try to love your neighbor as much as you love yourself, but because when you truly see there is no difference between yourself and your neighbor. The same consciousness that looks through your eyes looks through theirs. The same love that beats your heart beats theirs. This love doesn't make you weak or vulnerable in the way you've been taught to fear. It makes you incredibly strong because you're no longer dependent on others for your sense of worth. You're no longer at the mercy of their moods or their approval or their presence in your life. You love them freely because you choose to, not because you need to. But even this beautiful love must die. Everything you build, every relationship, every identity, every version of yourself that you think is spiritual or evolved, will eventually crumble. The lover will leave. The passion will fade. The person you thought you were will dissolve like salt in water. And this is not tragedy. This is grace. For only in the dissolution of all your constructed loves can you discover the love that was there before you were born. The love that is you, not the love that you have. The love that doesn't depend on objects or relationships or circumstances. The love that simply is. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is disappear, to withdraw into silence, to stop performing love and start being it. To let all your relationships to yourself and others die so that something deeper can emerge from the ashes. In the silence, you discover that you were never actually seeking love at all. Love was seeking you. Love was you. Love was the very awareness in which the whole search was happening. The seeker, the seeking, and the sought were never separate to begin with. This is what the mystics meant when they spoke of spiritual death. Not the death of the body, but the death of the false self that believes it needs something outside itself to be complete. The death of the ego that thinks it can possess love, control love, make love happen through effort and strategy and technique. The mountain doesn't need to prove it's a mountain. The river doesn't need to convince anyone it's flowing. The sun doesn't need to justify its shining. They simply are what they are. And in being what they are completely, they serve the wholeness of everything. Sometimes you must retreat into solitude not because you're avoiding love, but because you're allowing love to recalibrate itself, to remember its own nature beyond all the stories you've told about it, to return to its source so it can flow more purely. In Zen, they call this the Great Death, the moment when all your concepts about yourself and love and life dissolve, and you discover what remains when everything you think you are falls away. What remains is not emptiness but fullness, not absence but presence, not lack but the source from which all apparent lacks arise. The masters knew that attachment, even to the most beautiful loves, creates suffering. Not because love itself is suffering, but because trying to hold on to love is like trying to hold on to water. The tighter you grasp, the more it slips through your fingers. But letting go doesn't mean not loving. It means loving so completely that you're willing to let love be free, willing to let it come and go as it will, willing to be the space in which love can dance, rather than the dancer trying to control the dance. So I ask you, are you ready to stop seeking love and start being it? Are you ready to sit in the silence that terrifies you and discover that it's not empty? It's pregnant with infinite possibility. Are you ready to meet yourself as you truly are, not as you think you should be or as others want you to be, but as you are in this moment, complete and whole and absolutely perfect in your imperfection? This is not about becoming a hermit. This is not about rejecting relationship or connection or intimacy. This is about discovering the source from which all authentic relationship flows. This is about becoming so full of love that you naturally overflow into the world, not as a strategy to get love back, but as the natural expression of what you are. Write this in the comments as your commitment to yourself. I choose the silence that reveals my wholeness. Let these words be your return to yourself, not as preparation for love, but as love itself recognizing its own nature. Not as a path to finding someone else, but as the discovery that you were never actually separate from what you were seeking. Stop seeking. Start being. The love you've been searching for has been looking at you through your own eyes all along. It's been beating your heart, breathing your breath, thinking your thoughts. It's been the very consciousness in which all your seeking has been happening. The seeker and the sought were never two. The lover and the beloved were never separate. You are both the question and the answer, the emptiness and the fullness, the journey and the destination. Watch the next video if you want. Read the next book if it calls to you. But know that every word, every teaching, every pointer is just directing you back to the silence where you meet yourself as you truly are. Not empty, not lacking, not incomplete, but overflowing with the very love you thought you needed to find somewhere else. You are not seeking love. You are love seeking to know itself through the beautiful, temporary, perfect form that you are. The search ends where it began, here, now, in the space of your own awareness, in the love that you are, in the silence that speaks louder than all words. Welcome home to yourself. Welcome home to love. Welcome home to the truth that you never actually left.